So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by two members from the band False Fed. And they're a new, dare I say, super group because they got members from different bands together. And they're going to put out a debut album next month in October. And I'm here with Stig, Maximus, and JP. So I have one guitar player and the bass player of the band, and we're here to discuss music and the album that's coming out. So first of all, guys, how are you tonight?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah,
I'm pretty good. So yeah, I got to listen to your music. I got sent the promotion of the album, and I read like a description of the people who were in the band and like the style. So I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And I listened to the two singles that you have, The Tyrant Dies, which I thought is a great single, and Echoes of Compromise. So I love the two singles. So I heard the complete album, which is 7 tracks, and yeah, pretty cool stuff. So first of all, for people that don't know False Fed, how did you guys got together?
Do you want to talk, JP?
I can field this one for you. So
Go on.
Yeah. So JJ, the vocalist, lives in the same town as me, and I think we met through me tagging along at Discharge shows and just learning the ropes, things like that. And then it was around the first COVID lockdown that he wanted to do something different. I was playing around with ideas and things like that, and we just started putting things together. And then JJ came up with the idea of getting Stig involved, and sent Stig some of the demos that we had, and Stig recorded over them, chopped them up, made them into something else, and then we knew something, special was growing together, really. And then it was Stig that got Roy involved because of the past connections that he's got with him, with Amebix and stuff, and thankfully Roy said yes, and False Fed was created, and we just started writing constantly. And it just so happened that like lockdown was going on at the time, and we're all in our separate places, and it was great in that aspect because we had loads of time on our hands and we could just keep writing and trying ideas and sending them around. But yeah, it was pretty much just born from an idea of just starting just to try new ideas, really, and then it's turned into this.
Yeah, awesome. And the sound of the band, there's like punk, but there's some songs that the singing reminded me a little bit of Typo Negative and those type of bands. So for you guys, what was when you were working on False Fed, did you knew what type of sound you wanted, or did it just came naturally to you guys?
No, not at all. We didn't have any plan about what we were going to do. JP would send me a bass riff, and I would either we'd be like sharing files. So JP would send me like a bass riff in a certain beats per minute. I'd put it into my studio on my end, cut it up and rearrange it so it was something that I could play to. And really with this stuff, it gave me a bit of freedom to kind of channel all the things that I liked growing up with music, and all the music that I've kind of been involved with, and music that I've always liked, that kind of feel of different things. Nothing specific, but just a kind of lifetime of being involved and being around music. You tend to kind of like absorb some of it, So that's what it just came out the way it came out, with a little bit of a kind of old school sort of feel to it, but also with a little bit of a modern touch as well. So I think it's got a lot of different elements of different things in it, but it's not anything consciously thought out. Do you know what I mean? It's just like something that just happens when you're in that creative zone. Oh, we can do this. This sounds cool. Let's go with that. So that's how it kind of worked out. Just like that, sharing ideas.
Like I happen to be a pretty big Typo Negative fan, but that never came to in my head. I never thought, oh, let's sit down and do you know what I mean? It was never meant to be a goth album. It was never meant to be a punk album. It was just meant to be whatever appeared, and it's taken this kind of a darker route, I guess you could say. But we never had that conversation ever. It just so happened that this is how it came about, really.
I don't think it would have worked if we had that conversation.
No, I feel the same way. I think we would, because we would have had to have acted to something.
Yeah, if we'd sat there and gone, oh, we want to make a record that sounds like this or a little bit like this and what elements of this in it. It was pretty natural development just from being right in the creative zone and sharing files between each other and being excited. Oh, this sounds cool. I'll put this guitar on it. What do you guys think? Send it back. And JJ's going, yeah, I've got a vocal for that. Bang, straight on it. So yeah, that was good. And me and JP just kind of wrote the music together, didn't we? And then we sent it to JJ, and he would just either like it or not like it. He liked it.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
There was hours of music that were written, you know what I mean? And then we're like, well, this is not there yet, it's not ready, or, that's not going to work. We're just, what I like about False Fed is that we can all be very honest with each other. So we can say yes or no, and it's no hard feelings. It's just if it makes the cut or not. But yeah, like as far as a design, we never designed a sound though. It was never, I didn't know it had come out as dark as it did, to be honest. But I didn't know what to expect anyway. But I think that was part of the fun of it. It was like having a child and not knowing if it's a boy or a girl.
Nowadays, you don't know if maybe they're not neither. So you wouldn't know. So yeah, I think the beauty about having like a new band is that you have that freedom. That it's your first album. You can do whatever you want because it's not like you're like people are like expecting a sound in particular. You just have like that freedom to play with what you like, right?
You have that. If you think about it, you have that when you first start a band, like things like Amebix or Zygo, those bands I've done. I had that freedom in the beginning of the band, and you have the freedom to go in any direction you want to start off with. If you're not trying to play to a demographic or please anyone, you're just trying to please yourself and make something good. And that's what we've done here. So, people might think, oh, is this going to sound like Amebix? No. Is it going to sound like Discharge? No, but there's going to be elements of those things in it because of the people involved, And that's just the way things are going to work. But we're not trying to emulate anything at all. It was just like a kind of stream of consciousness really going on, just sharing ideas, quick and fast, bashing something down. Does that sound good? Then going back and work on it again and again, recording demos and then getting happy with the demo and then re-recording the demos because you need them in a higher quality to share the files. So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve. But I'd been working with a few other things that didn't come to fruition anyway. So I was getting quite good at the file sharing thing and putting the ideas together quite quickly. But this was done quite a long time ago. It's just getting all our ducks in a row and everyone in the right place to be able to not be on tour, not be doing this or not be doing that, so they could focus on this. And because I haven't been doing any actual bands myself, I was able to give it my total attention, which was just as well, really.
It would have been another 6-month wait, Alf.
Oh yeah.
So
there's been some frustration, wasn't there? Like going like, okay, we're ready to fucking go with this shit, man. But you have to wait till everyone can finish doing what they've done. What they do for their other bands or their other things they do until everyone's ready to do it.
I think one of the beautiful things with what we've done here though is like conventionally most bands would go into like a rehearsal space every week or so and they jam ideas out, whereas we couldn't have done that just because of geographical things or because of COVID and stuff like that. So the way that our songs grew was through multiple file sharing. So it wasn't, one song.
Roy Mayorga lives in the States, right?
Yeah. So he's it's a long bus ride to get to a rehearsal. So it's we couldn't be together, so the song still had to develop, and I believe they did develop in exactly the same way, just through a different medium of using file sharing, we could take the time to listen to them and not overthink it, but we'd have a version of it, and then we're like, something could change. Like Roy might change a drum pattern, and the total vibe of the song will change. And it's like, well, I've got this idea for bass now, you know what I mean? And I want to change it up that way. So the songs are still extremely organic in that way because of the multiple file sharing. It's just, again, we didn't really have a plan of how we were going to do it, apart from we were going to send emails to each other, but it worked out really well in the end.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
it sounds good. I listened to the album, and you wouldn't tell that you were sharing files or whatever. It has a great sound. So
That's
I haven't. Yeah,
That's
the name of the album is "Let Them Eat Fake," and this is the album cover. So this is a cool album cover. What can you tell me a little bit about the album cover?
That's done by George. Machine TM, he's called on Instagram. But
yeah,
I think JJ got him involved, didn't he, JP?
Yeah, so I think George was doing a lot of the Discharge tour posters that you see, things like that are done by George as well. He's really well known in the scene, and he's a real nice guy, and he gets it. You know what I mean? He kind of got what we were going for straight away, and yeah, he's ended up doing a lot of artwork for us. So everything, I don't know who the boy is on the logo, but
he has a certain style, which is to use real things mixed with digital art. So if you look at that, that's like, he'll use like crumpled up paper, or he'll use real font and cut them out and then print it, rather than just using like Photoshop or whatever. He's part organic and part digital, which is kind of a good mixture, I think, and it makes a different type of feel to it,
Yeah, he's very, again, organic in a ways. And I know that the barcode, here's a little fun fact for you. The barcode on the kid's ear is the barcode for the album as well, originally.
Oh.
I believe that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that is correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. And then I don't know if you can see the back of the album, but obviously the cabling goes all the way out. Like let them eat fake is kind of a pointing towards mass media, or false information, things like that. That's where it comes from. I think that you came up with the title of the album, didn't you, Stig?
Yeah, I had a track that I called "Let Them Eat Fake," but it wasn't. I mean, we tried playing it, but it just, I don't know. I felt like that's a track that isn't really going to make the record, because it wasn't actually good enough music. I didn't think it was tight enough musically. So we dumped the track, but kept the title for it, because I liked the idea of it,
Yeah, it's a good title. So
yeah,
it makes sense. And listening to the album, like I interpreted from themes on the album. Obviously, the song "The Tyrant Dies" is talking about a lot of like tyrants that have been bad throughout human history. So that one, that I really got the message for it, and I love the opener, "Superficial." I think that's a great album opener. Did you guys, the lyrics, is it all the vocalists, or do you guys work all on lyrics?
They're all the lyrics are by JJ. We didn't write any lyrics at all, but he kind of explained to us vaguely what he was going for, what the idea was going to be around them. So we kind of understood it and get behind it, So that's a good thing, where you kind of, I'm not saying I know exactly what the songs are about, but then I was thinking about that today. When people explain to you exactly what a song's about, it takes the magic out of it, because it can mean a different thing for a different person, You listen to a song, I tell you exactly what they were writing about, and you didn't want to know, really. You just want to have the feel of it, and you understand it and take it in your own way. And it can mean a different thing to a different person. Sorry,
Superficial was actually the first track that we worked on together. So I think that's why, again, it was important to be at the start of the album. Like that was kind of the first idea I sent.
They are almost in order. "Superficial," "Tyrant Dies" was the second track we worked on together. Then "Echoes." So we actually have.
Yeah, you're right. I did not know that until now, but that makes perfect sense.
I'm not sure.
You're right.
I'm not sure about the after. definitely starts off with the first 3 songs we wrote together are in order of how we wrote them and in that timeline as well, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's
I also enjoyed a lot the song Dreadful Necessities. That one was a pretty cool dark track as well. And I like the vibe from it. So for you guys working on the album, like this is a question I like to ask. Like I like to ask the artists, like which song is your favorite and why? And which song was possibly the hardest one to write or to work on? And Stig can have his 2 picks, and JP can have his.
okay. Stig first.
2. How many do we get? 2. Do we get 2?
Yes.
2.
You get 2. You start then, JP. You start, man.
Okay, so my favorite track and then the hardest track to write. That was
The hardest one
question,
the one that was the most hard to put together.
Okay, so I think that the hardest one for me at the time was actually The Tyrant Dies, because when it first came about, the actual drum beat and stuff like that, I knew that I had to get that rhythm because that's what was in my head of the intro. But for me, that took me ages because I was having to, like, I was not very experienced in studios and music production before we started doing this, and I remember trying to write this drum beat to try and to go with the bass, and it took me probably a good solid 3 days to try and get that how I wanted it in my head. So that was like one of the more challenging things.
That was great though. I thought that was really, really
good. It was well worth it. I think when you get an idea in your head and you know how it should sound, and then it was having the skills and the abilities to get that onto my laptop. So that was one of the more challenging aspects of the writing side. I think my favorite track, I'm gonna have to. This is a tough question because they're all kind of like,
they're all your babies.
Obviously I like them, so they're all on there. But I'm probably gonna have to go. I think Echoes of Compromise is a real standout one for me. And Dreadful Necessities. It's a very close toss up between them two. There's certain parts in the songs that kind of like it could just be a couple of bars, but I feel like they proper hit me in the chest, and for that, like, I love them because they evoke that emotion in me, and it's a power, and it's not from my ideas. It could be something that, say, Stig, Roy, or JJ have put into it, and I'm like, that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I love it. But probably, I don't know. I'm not being very clear here. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stick with Echoes of Compromise as my favorite track off the album.
Okay. What about you, Stig? Which one was your favorite, and which track was the hardest for you to work on?
I like The Tyrant Dies because of the syncopated beat. JP sent it with that beat on it, and I thought this is just something different. Because if you're working with a DAW, most things you're going to do a 4/4 beat, but this is like a da. It was like a bit different, So that was more interesting for me to play to. So I like that straight up blasting track, but I also I like Echoes of Compromise because it's a soft and hard track, and you've got like a nice soft intro, and you've got quite a fairly heavy sounding chorus and pre-chorus to it. So, and it has a nice outro. So that is a good track as well. I think the most difficult one to write for me was Big Sleep. I wasn't sure if that was going to work at all when I wrote the riff for that, because that was one of the ones I wrote the guitar riff and then sent it to JP afterwards. So that was one that I didn't really seem to work on its own as just a guitar riff, but it worked as a whole thing with bass and everything. So yeah, I think that was difficult. The other ones were fairly easy. Excuse these technical malfuckeries I'm having here, man, but this phone has been a right fucking pain in the ass, and I was running out of power. Never mind, continue, the show must go on and all that. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, I think the most difficult one for me to kind of get my head around and also to get the vocals lined up right was Big Sleep, because it had all those different effects and all the different things on it. But yeah, my favorite one, I think My favorite two are Tyrant Dies and Echoes. Yeah, I think are my favorite tracks on there.
It makes sense because you use them as the two singles, but I think they represent the album well as a whole. So if you listen to those two tracks, you'll get an idea what False Threat is all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like listening to a lot, there's some political undertones in a few of the songs, like obviously the Tyrant Dies, and there's another one, the Mass Debate. I thought those two were the most like politically lenient, but there's other things to the band, so it's not like it's a super political band. But yeah, I enjoyed the vibe from it, and it obviously Roy Mayorga on drums. I'm glad you got him because he really hits those drums really good. Like
yeah. He did a nice mix as well. He did some nice mixes on it. It was just like waiting for him to have the time to sit down and do it. You know, Roy likes to concentrate and finish one thing off at a time and then move on to the next thing. So he was busy doing other things. So I'd sent him all the demos and kind of lined up how he wanted them to sound. You know, how do you fancy playing on these? And yeah, he was right up for it. So I'm really pleased that he did, because no one drums quite like Roy and no one mixes stuff quite like him. And he gets
so like Roy produced the album as well.
Yeah, his mixes and his the way he's mixed it is kind of unique as well. But when you can hear all the bottom end, I don't want to get all too much technicalities about it, but you can really feel the bottom end, but you can also got top cut and that like mid-range sound, which is nice. Everything's in there, you know.
Yeah.
So also, really quick, he was fast, and I sent him the files, and he was like, because when we first did the demos, I recorded them all at the wrong sample rate, so we had to we thought, oh great, we got all these demos, I've got all the files, they're ready to go, and it's like, oh, they were the wrong sample rate, so we had to re-record everything all over again. and then we had to re-record everything all over again after Roy had sent his drums to us, because the pacing was slightly different rather than using the program drums.
So, but I'm sure it was a huge learning experience. Maybe so when you guys do a second album. So you're putting out the record on October the 13th. So I'll put I'll put the link for pre-orders. You're putting it out on CD. You have an LP and everything. I think will the vinyl be available on the 13th, or will that be later on?
Yeah, I think that's vinyl drop in there to be available. I mean, it's available for pre-order now. It's all the stuff's up for pre-order now. You can pre-order it now on the Neurot site. Yeah. But I think it'll actually be like released like in the shops and that on the 13th. I think, as far as I know, I just make the music. I don't really get involved in too many of those things. But
one of the biggest weights we actually had. Was when we're talking a little bit earlier about it getting frustrating, was how long it takes for vinyl to get pressed now. So it's like there's massive waiting list.
It was the fault of your concrete Adele, that she made so many vinyl that she made everyone get back ordered.
Well, there was a good 6 months, at least a 6 month wait on pressing. So that was like, you're waiting on pressing, and then you're trying to get your test pressings. You're getting your test pressings, and then you're having to send them back and get them done again. So it took a long time to get it right, which is, that was a bit of a wind up. But there you go. You know, it's all. I think it's a different way than I've ever written records before. So you'll be able to sit there. It's rather than, in most of the band things I've done, you're in a band situation. You go in, you jam, you rehearse music, then you go to a studio, you record the music, and it's kind of put out. So you have to commit to pretty much what you've done, and that's it. You've done it, you've mixed it, and you can't go back and fuck with it anymore. It's just as is. So that comes out, and it's cool. But then you listen to it later on and think, oh, I should have done this with that. I wish I'd turn this up. I wish I'd done that. And the good thing about this is I don't wish we'd done anything. I'm happy with the mixes as they are, and they are as, I'm not going to go back and listen to it in a few years' time and think, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that. I think we've done all that thinking and worrying already before the records come out. So we've kind of pre-disastered it for that sort of thing when you sit there and question whether it's good enough or what. But I think it's a good solid record which reflects the kind of these times, but also reflects the times that led up to these times. You know what I mean? So yeah,
it's good not to overthink. And looking at you, Stig, you don't seem like a guy that overthinks. You seem to be a pretty relaxed dude.
yeah. Well, appearances can be deceiving, man.
So yeah, so you're ready to put the album on the 13th. Are you guys gonna be planning to do some shows or touring sometime this year or next year?
Possibly. It's just getting the logistics together to do that, and it's getting, you know, if we want to do this country, that means we'd have to get Roy over here with rehearsal spaces, blah blah blah, all those things, somewhere for everyone to stay. So we need to find a central location where we can all live for a bit and just get totally immersed in it. So it would be good to do some gigs. I think we might write a few more songs in the meantime, so we've got some extra songs to play, because it's not really enough music there to do a decent length of set. So yeah, I'd like to bang together at least another 2 or 3 more songs to put together for the set. And that would be quite easy to do. And I think these would come thick and fast if we were in a room together. We'd be bashing stuff out. I mean, the whole point of this was we can make something file shared that doesn't sound like it's file shared. It sounds like a band in the same room together. And it kind of was, but just virtually, you know? So we kept in contact with each other via Skype or Zoom. Once a week we'd sit and we'd just be like talking to each other like we are now. So it felt like a band. So it felt like you're not just sharing files with some person you hardly know, you know, that doesn't really understand what you're trying to get across. So you got a kind of band feel about it, because we were a band, but we weren't all in the same room. We were just talking to each other on Skype or Zoom or whatever. To get that band mentality between you, you have to be discussing things, you know?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
There is certainly, like, there's been talk of touring. I think it's something that we all want to do, but like Stig said, it's the logistics of it that need ironing out. So we can't say, oh yeah, it's going to happen, right? You know what I mean? And can't give dates or anything. But I think it's something that all 4 of us are wanting to do. So at some point, fingers crossed, it'll happen.
Yeah, and maybe those new songs that you work on, that could be an EP, because a lot of bands are doing EPs now. So
EPs, eh? Wow, that takes me back. I remember EPs. Yeah.
That's I mean, there's lots of bands doing EPs now. It's very common now to do like a 3-song EP, 4-song. And so it's a way to get your music out there, and then you have 3 more songs, and then you have 10 songs, and there you go.
That's a show.
That's a show.
Gig, man. That's a gig. 10 songs. What more do you fucking want? Great.
I think we're in an age now, aren't we, where everything's like streamed, and you know, and I think, like you say, more and more bands are putting EPs out over albums, because there's a constant kind of pressure almost to be seen to be busy and doing something. So, you know, a band will put 3 EPs out rather than 1 album every year or so.
Yeah, you look more busy than making just 1 album. You do 3 EPs.
Yeah.
And everyone, fuck, those guys are goddamn workhorses, man. Look at them go.
Yeah.
Only 9 tracks, mind, but 3 fucking EPs nonetheless.
Yeah. We should have thought of that.
That's a good plan. I like that. We've got that idea. We can just sput out EPs all year long, not worry about putting records out.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Yeah. 4 EPs and less long albums. So, guys, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your night to talk with me, chat about False Fed, and obviously the new album. So for people that haven't heard False Fed, I'll put the links, because there's 2 music videos out now, and the link so people can pre-order that album that will come out on the 13th of October. So, and you have to follow them on the social media so you know what they're gonna do next. So anything you would like to say to the people, that discover your band?
Well,
Um,
you say something,
Stig?
JP. I just saying, yeah.
I think just thank you to everybody that's taken the time to check it out so far. That's in order. We appreciate, people take. There's a lot of music being put out all the time at the moment, so I think it's even more special when we're seeing people and gaining traction, and people are following it and liking it and just giving it the opportunity. So I think, thank you is all I would say to everybody so far.
Yeah. Also, I'd just like to just thank everyone that's given of their time freely or as cheaply as possible to make this happen. Yeah, because
that's a very good point.
Yeah, we've had people do things for nothing for us, which was very kind of them, and we couldn't have really paid them to do the same work they've done for nothing. So that's not always, but people have done things cheaply for us, or they've done them for next to nothing, really, which is how we made this happen by everyone else helping us.
It was a very DIY kind of feel putting it together.
Yeah.
Obviously, with New Rot and stuff like that, they're a great label, and they've got great contacts with the PR and stuff like that, and that's obviously been a massive push for us as well. We've just got we're very fortunate. We've got a really good group of people around us with the label, PR, and then people like Darren, who does a lot of the videos for us, George, who does the artwork. So we're very lucky. One day when we make a lot of money, we'll throw a nice staff party for them.
You can bring a
Christmas party. Yeah.
Well, that they'll see this video, and years will happen. They'll put out like, "Hey, you said this on that interview."
I know.
Now you have to put out a party for us. Yeah, they'll hold you for that. So people check out False Fed, the new album coming out October 13th. And so if you like all those bands that we've been discussing, check them out. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch.